Well, welcome back to the anthology of bad ideas. So I've made some progress after literally about 4 hours of Googling. I couldn't find a steering rack with centers like that narrow from there to there. So we go with the old power steering box. I didn't have power steering originally. I picked up this box years ago. So power steering box, drag link. Tie rods, I'm not going to use them. There's one under here as well, I'm not going to use that one. I'm probably going to make another one of these, another drag link. Yeah, because those centers just off. I can't drill that. I can't weld that. It's just not going to work. So I probably just get a piece of square bar that's big enough to fit all that, and put some spherical joints in. Yeah, can't do too much more with that. So as far as the pump, so these aren't the heads I'm going to be using. So heads that are getting built right now have accessory holes. So there'll be a hole there, and there, or something like that. So I can mount the power steering pump either here or over here. But I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. So my steel showed up. So it's just a little hack that I did. Not a life hack, it's literally a hack. I'll get that out of the way. It is rough as, but it's just to get an idea of what we're doing. So to put it into perspective, I'll give you a bit more of an explanation. This is a camber bolt. So there's going to be a flat here and a flat here on each side. So as you shift the bolt, it moves on the eccentric here, and then it goes in and out. And then that in and out, transfer in and out here. And that will let me adjust camber, hence the name camber bolt. So that's a factory one. That's still a factory bushing. I will eventually build all this again. This is just very, very rough. It's definitely not what's going to be the final product. I'm just doing this so I can make a template, so I can make a jig, and then I can make a proper one. I'll probably end up using polyurethane for the bush, because that's just rubber. It's just a crusty rubber bush in there. Who knows how old this thing is. This is all secondhand stuff. It's had a very hard life, so I don't trust it at all. You see the low ball joint there, that'll get replaced as well. You can see what I've done. You can see what I've done there. Let's just zoom in a tiny bit. So that's off the original one, the original lower. I've just cut that, welded this onto it. It's just a piece of 48mm tube. It's got like a 5mm walt. It is very, very, very heavy. Yeah, so just cut the end of that off just so I can get the ball joint cup. That's just sort of tacked in place, very crusty tack. So the idea being, I can again just work out where it's roughly going to sit. You can see this here, so that's binding, that's binding. That's a happy medium. So the alignment of this bolt is longitudinal with the rest of the chassis. As far as anti-dive, anti-Scott, we're not too worried about that at the moment. It's just going to change. This will probably stay the same. So originally this was a double A-arm. Now this is going to be a lower A-arm with a radius arm. So that's going to sit out like that towards the back and pick up somewhere over here, not here, back behind that. That way that'll give me some caster adjustment, caster being the pinion angle, so between that joint and that joint up the top, how far that leans back. Not leans in, but leans back. So that's your caster. So that caster adjustment there is, you get a little bit out of this. That's not really why I want to keep this. I want to keep this for camber, not caster. So if I do a radius arm going out the back, that way, that'll have an adjustable ball joint on the end, not a camber bolt like this. That's be a Johnny joint. So that will give me caster adjustment. So you can sort of see what I'm going for here, if that makes sense. So ignore that. ignore that. I couldn't get those undone. They're sitting there for now. So yeah, drag link, Pitman arm, idler or Pitman arm as well. You can still buy these. I'll just replace that just with the factory one. I'm not too worried about that failing. If any force is going to get transferred from one side to the other, rather than through these. That's why it's thick, but it's not that thick. Well, that's the idea anyway. Yeah. So power steering box, you can see here, this bracket here is now the way of the steering shaft. No big deal. So what I'm going to do in the near future, I'm going to make a CAD template, a cardboard template. Go something like this. I'd pick up on the back of this, back of the rail, and the side of the cross member along here. Pick up between the two bushings. So this hoop here represents, well, the top of that is actually roughly the top of the shock. So I get something that ties all this in together like that kind of shape, and leaves enough room. Once drill a hole in there for the steering shaft to go through. Yeah, so make that out of cardboard, get everything to line up. I'll probably just make it again out of thin steel. I don't need to make it out of thick stuff at the moment. I will eventually make a spring or shock mount there, where the radius arm will bolt on going backwards. It'll probably just be a solid bush. So as you dial in caster going backwards and forwards, this lower arm has the ability to twist like that. We don't want that. That starts screwing up geometry. So that radius arm that goes back will locate through a bolt and a solid bush, and that'll stop any twisting. Twisting's bad. So that's going to be a fairly heavy bolt, fairly heavy bush. It doesn't need really any movement, because once these are bolted together, they'll both pivot together on this axis through here. So these bolt holes should line up. Oh, sorry, this bolt axis will line up with the center of the spherical bearing at the back. Yeah, that's the idea. So whatever this offset is, so I use the crank as a center. Whatever that distance is from center. So just imagine a line there, whatever that distance is. The rear one, I'll have this pretty square. The radius arm mount at the back will be in line with the center of this. The center of that joint being in line with the center of that. That's the idea. So that's the top bit that I sort of explained. So the bottom bit, I'll make another CAD template here. So it's going to pick up on the bottom of this, come across, and the other side, and go back up to there. Again, it's going to pick up on the bottom of this, bottom of the chassis rail. I'll probably make some standoffs to tie to the cross member. So I get some front to back support. What I'd like to do as well, I think I've explained it, I'll explain it again. So off the bottom of this cross member, or off the back of the cross member, about here, maybe a little bit further out. Just like rubbing stuff on my new finger, see, it's dirty already. Stop picking my nose with that thing. So look underneath it real quick. So the idea is I'm going to have two longitudinal tubes that go all the way down the back, like that, front to back, on this side as well, front to back. A couple of cross members between them, and it's going to pick up from the side of those tubes to the existing chassis rail. So not this thing here, not that. I've got to pull that out. That's useless. So we come down and then all the way back, and then every now and then it's just going to pick up to the side of the chassis rail. The same on this side. And probably triangulate it a little bit in the middle between the two. I if that makes sense. Because these are just a twin, just call it a twin spar frame. It's just got two legs, if you want to call them legs. 2 rails go front to back. Not much support in the middle. So I don't trust it. This thing's actually going to hold. They weren't the strongest thing when they came out. They're definitely not the strongest thing now either. So I'll get to those tubes when I get to them. This driver side, because this is a right-hand drive, this driver side front is going to dictate pretty much everything else. Because as you can see, I have to deal with the steering box, the steering shaft, the brake booster and master cylinder, and there's a starter motor down there as well. Nice shiny starter motor. So if everything here fits, then everything here is going to fit, in theory. We've got the exhaust program over the top. Still got to put a rocker cover on there, which will be pretty big. It have to be tall. Again, I'm not using these heads. So the new heads, this lip here is a little bit taller. It's probably about here. So an extra 15 millimeters. And then it'll be a tall rocker cover. So it'll be quite big. I'm running out of room already. So this is just a wind manifold I picked up fairly cheap. I will be using it. I've just got a spacer on here. It's just an adapter spacer to go from a 4150 to a 2-barrel. This is to get a height. So the height of this thing already, that's the top of the carby there. That's probably already gonna be sticking through the bonnet. A bit annoying. So what I'm gonna do, come around this side. I think I've explained this already. In here and in here. So on the other side, I'll add some 50 millimeter spacers, or 2 inches for those out there that don't like base 10 math. Yeah, you can see the height I'm dealing with. You've got all that height there. And then the bonnet's going to be, yes, it's running out of room. So you can see how I've extended these arms. Again, it's just very temporary. This arm will get remade. I'll make another cup for the ball joint. I'll pick up off these points. I'll make a negative jig to pick up on these, to pick up on that cup. Just make the whole thing in out of tube, reinforce it. And the shock will come through here. What I've been using, just as a bit of a facsimile, just been using this Spirit Level, really. Works well enough. So that's roughly where the shock's going to sit. As you see, it comes through the upper arm, picks up on the lower arm. So this Spirit Level is 900 millimeters long. The shock that I'm planning to get is 810 millimeters between centers. So this is going to be pretty close. This actually sits, this bit of tube here that I made. So this new arm here actually sits higher, because the factory one was sort of flat and then kicked up. This is basically almost just a straight line to the bush. So the spring mount will be slightly recessed into this, just to the back of it. So if you could imagine, got lower ball joint, imagine a straight line between that, and then a straight line here. Make a big pyramid out of this. The shock has to go straight through the center of that. Because when this is fully compressed, that's a full bump. This is a full bump. You want the shock mounts, you want it to be perpendicular. So as this comes up, this angle here is going to change for the shock. Well, the mount's going to stay in the same point, but it's a triangle. The triangle is going to change because this side of the triangle for the shock changes length. I hope that makes sense. I'll say that again. I'll explain it slightly better. Full bump, full compression, the shock absorber, 3 through its axis has to be perpendicular to this line here. So from that ball joint to that bush, it has to be perpendicular at full bump. As to so you get proper progression throughout the stroke, so the geometry doesn't change too much. Otherwise you're going to have to go heavier springs and all that kind of thing to make up for it. So it's just better geometry. Yeah, that's what I've been up to. I'll continue with this for a little bit longer. Almost ready for lunch. Yeah, steel showed up. It's quite heavy, very, very heavy. Yeah. That's what I've been up to. Yeah, you see that shaft there? That bolts onto that there. This is just a temporary fixture, just to hold that upper arm up. Yeah. And I will see you next time. Any questions, feel free to ask.